What is going on, everyone? Welcome into Big Time Football Talk. So, got a huge show planned today. We're going to get into some NFL. We're going to talk some college football. Apologize for the bit of the time off. Had a lot going on. But first, I want to touch on Bill Belichick has proven to do it again against rookie QBs. This time, Justin Herbert is the victim. And, what they had planned just made him uncomfortable. And they really got a lot of pressure on him. I'm talking about last week's game, about the Chargers. I want to touch on a little bit of last week. We'll get into this week and touch on a lot of college football, a lot of great topics. But Bill Belichick proves to just be an elite coach and just getting Justin Herbert off balance, and that defense looks so well prepared. And Bill Belichick is so good at preparing and it just does things that just make rookie quarterbacks uncomfortable. I think this was a good thing for Justin Herbert because failure is part of growth, and this will help him learn from his mistakes and improve, and try not to have an outing like that again. And but yeah, that was a great win for New England. And New England, don't count this team out. This is still a well-coached football team with some talent, and Cam Newton's played better, and don't sleep on New England just yet. So next, I want to get into Washington is really building something, and early on they looked so good. They had that game against Philadelphia where they just sacked Wentz several times, and Chase Young played really well. Then they had the losing streak. Alex Smith came back, and now Washington really looks good. That defense is cooking. And I always say in the NFL, you might to build an elite team, build an elite franchise, you might as well just get good at something. It's Kansas City Chiefs. We get elite at the quarterback play, get elite in the passing game, elite play caller. Or New England, get an elite coach, get an elite quarterback. For Washington, the way they're going to separate themselves, they could have went quarterback again in the draft, but instead, let's take Chase Young. Let's get elite on the defensive side of the ball. And that was Jacksonville's strategy a couple years ago. Instead of trying to find maybe a quarterback receiver, let's get elite at something. Let's get elite at the defensive side of the ball. And then, the Baltimore Ravens, let's just they're kind of elite at a lot of things, but they're just like, let's get elite at running the ball. We have a mobile quarterback. Now we have 2-star running backs in J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram, and that's just pound the football on teams. Even Gus Edwards is pretty solid. So I see a lot of the best teams. Yeah, in the Tennessee Titans too. Let's just get elite at running the ball, taking care of the ball, and playing stingy defense. That's Washington. Let's just get big, physical, mean. They've kind of built similar to the Alabama identity. Several guys from Bama on their defense, Landon Collins and Daron Payne. But yeah, I love the Washington defensive line, and some of as much of an offensive league as this, if you can still win up front like Washington does, that is just so crucial to having success on the defensive side of the ball, and that's something that Chase Young and company have really done. And Alex Smith is a great story, and it's good to see him back on the field. Hurt his knee yesterday, but hopefully he's all right. But just love to see what the future holds for Washington as they're building something special, and this team keeps improving, and likely could win still that division this year. And who knows, you get in the playoffs with an elite defense like that come and the weather's getting colder. See what Washington can do moving forward. But really love what I've seen out of the Washington football team. So yeah, Chase Young, it goes to show sometimes you just want to take the best player on the board. It's not you don't always need to go needs, but so. And next I want to get into, I was really excited about Cleveland last week, and came up short just last night, but Cleveland, they're finally looking like the team that everyone's wanted them to look like. They just said, Baker Mayfield. Sadly, Baker Mayfield's a good quarterback, but he's not a guy that's just going to drop back and just pick you apart. This is really just what he thrives in when the team's running the ball well, and he is just he looks so comfortable in the play action. And really at Oklahoma, they were more of even though he had gaudy numbers passing, there's a lot of they really Lincoln Riley's philosophy was to run the ball and set up a lot of play action. That's what they did. They had great backs at Oklahoma, and they had great skill positions. He played with Lamb, Marquise Brown, Rodney Anderson, and they were basically a run-first team, and Baker Mayfield just, made big plays in the play-action game, and that's similar to now in Cleveland. You got Chubb and Kareem Hunt and, Beckham's been out, but then Donovan Peoples-Jones is emerging at the wide receiver position. You got a solid defense, and you now got a good offensive-minded coach who's not going to overthink things and just pound the ball. But, last night's game against the Ravens came up short, but I'd love to see two teams having so much success running the football. It's very fun to watch to me because a lot of people get excited about the passing game, but running the football is still so important in the NFL, and the Browns are an example of that. The Ravens, the Titans, still teams that run the ball very well, also can throw it, but really they've built their identity on pounding the football with great running backs, and have done a good job of building up a better interior line, and still have some solid players at the tackle position as well. But I see the same. The Washington and the Titans and the Redskins, the Washington football team are still examples of the basic fundamentals of football, that winning in the trenches, winning up front, and running the football and stopping the run is very important in the NFL. And those teams are a prime example. And you still have teams that can throw it too all over the yard, like Seattle and Kansas City, but very fun to watch teams run the ball because I'm a big fan of running the football, and that game last night was a perfect example of that. And it's I think the running back position is still slowly building up more and more value as a position that started to get more a lot more devalued in the last few years, but a lot of people have really put some more value on the running back position, which is good. And Nick Chubb has an argument for one of the best backs, if not the best back in the NFL right now. So credit to what he's doing, and Kareem Hunt's done some great things too. So next I want to get into Gus Malzahn has decided to move on from, or Auburn has decided to move on from Gus Malzahn, and this is really too bad to me. I said what's kind of crazy about this whole thing is firing a guy after a win. That's something you just don't really see too often. I get they weren't really competitive in the big games this year, got pummeled by Georgia, pummeled by Alabama, but when you play against Nick Saban, it's one of those things that if you beat him once in a while, that's almost a good thing. And what was he, 2-2 against Saban? And Malzahn did a lot of great things at Auburn. It looks like it's kind of one of those things where the magic carpet ride's kind of over. I think he came in and built a lot of excitement. Remember they had that year in 2013 where came up just shy of the national title. They just kept making those crazy plays. I mean, the kick six against Alabama, and then the magical tip touchdown against Georgia. And what was it? A couple years ago, they made it to the SEC championship. So it was just short of winning two SEC championships, the one coming in 2013. So Malzahn accomplished some great things, and beating Alabama twice is right up there as one of the top goals and one of his top accomplishments. So Gus Malzahn, looking back on it, Auburn should be thankful for his time there, even though that the magic carpet ride or the kind of the momentum has kind of died down. Did some good things there, but I think it came down to not being competitive against good teams this year. And I don't know if they're not really. Seems like players aren't really buying into what he's selling as much, and the defense kind of was up and down a little bit at times during not just this year, but during his whole career. So, but be thankful if you're an Auburn fan. Gus Malzahn moving on, a $21 million buyout to, here's $21 million. Just don't come back to the facility. So, but Gus Malzahn should find another job. He's a good football coach. And so that's what I just wanted to touch on that. And, Nick Saban should be a little bit thankful that he's moved on, because a lot of time, with the exception of this year, most years they're really very competitive with Alabama as far as the Iron Bowl. So, yeah. So I want to touch on the Florida shoe incident. And one of the first things that comes to mind is that this is very sad for Marco Wilson. Marco Wilson, if you're just a casual fan of football, is or if you're a strong follower of college football, especially a Florida fan, Marco Wilson's one of the best players on the Florida defense. Likely will be drafted in the NFL, and it's kind of sad that this is the way his career will be remembered. Likely at Florida, and will be remembered for a long time. That play, and not necessarily a lot of the great things he did at Florida. I kind of give him a lot of the benefit of the doubt in this, because a lot of times you get heated in moments like this, and you kind of just, like, a player's towel comes off and you'll throw it to try to get it out of the way. This one, I think, was just kind of like a case of I don't think it was intentional to taunt, but I think it was just him just getting a little carried away in the heat of a moment, but still inexcusable. And it was turned out to be something that definitely should be a penalty and likely cost Florida a chance to compete for a college football playoff, compete in the college football playoff. But next, Florida still has has a big chance this Saturday. So that's one thing. If you're Dan Mullen, you got to harp to your guys that that was a big mistake. But this week against Alabama, that has a great opportunity. And if you're Marco Wilson, you have a big game, and you're the Florida Gators defense, and you have a big game, that's one thing that'll could almost make a lot of people forget about that incident. Not fully, but for the most part, and say, wow, Florida had a phenomenal season. You ended up beating Alabama, winning the SEC championship. Even if you don't quite make it in the playoff, it's still a great season. And Kyle Trask has had a phenomenal year at quarterback too. And they were without Kyle Pitts, too, at tight end. Pitts has had a marvelous season, will likely be the number one tight end off the board in the NFL draft. And but if I'm Marco Wilson, I'm looking at this Bama game saying I need to have a big game. If I have a big game, if our defense has a monster game, if we upset Alabama somehow and win the SEC, that'll really kind of turn the table on the season. It'll make a lot of Florida fans look at it in a different light, instead of, if they come up short, that shoe incident will really stick out more than anything, sadly. But that's reality of the situation. So as far as Michigan and Harbaugh, it looks like they're going to do. Looks like supposedly an extension is going to get done. I haven't touched on Harbaugh a lot because I've kind of made my point. I was hoping they would move on, but it looks like a contract will be done. But if something happens, and the rare chance he does move on, or they choose to move on if they play the Iowa game and they play bad and they fire him, or he chooses to try to go to the NFL, whether it's the Lions maybe, or who knows, Joe Brady and Chris Peterson would be the top two candidates on my list to replace him. Joe Brady, phenomenal offensive mind, led the LSU to the national championship last year as their offensive coordinator, or offensive I forget what his title was, but was involved in a lot of the offensive play calling. And there's they were at Steve Exlinger and then Brady. They had almost two offensive coaches there. But Chris Peterson's another guy. Chris Peterson, former Boise State and Washington football coach. Peterson did a lot of great things his time in college, a playoff appearance at Washington, a couple undefeated seasons at Boise State, and is a great recruiter and a good job of getting players that are kind of under the radar, even though that's not necessarily what he'll need to do at Michigan. But if Harbaugh chooses to move on, I think this could be a humbling thing for Michigan. Maybe that's what they need. They need to be humbled a little bit. And wouldn't it be interesting to see Michigan, that underdog, and Chris Peterson comes in and lands some low-key guys that turn out to be good, and he makes it his mission to beat Ohio State, and he's finally the guy to do it. That'd be kind of a wild story, and something he would be remembered for as a hero. Not just Chris Peterson. The next guy I say that comes in and beats Ohio State will really be remembered as a legend, honestly. And yeah. So the last thing I want to touch on is USC and the Pac-12 disrespect. I think in this scenario, if Clemson were to lose to Notre Dame, I think why not give USC a shot? As much disrespect as the Pac-12 gets this year by everyone around the country. I feel like if USC beats Oregon and goes undefeated, why not give them their fair shot in the college football playoff? This is a USC team. The defense is kind of shaky, but as far as offense goes, Caden Slovis is right there as one of the best quarterbacks, and Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of the best wide receivers. And they got some talent on the offensive side and could put up points. So why not put them in the playoff and give them a shot to try to silence some of the noise about the Pac-12. I would would love to see like a USC, even Iowa State. Iowa State only has one loss in the Big 12, maybe in Iowa State. So that's kind of wanted to just touch on that. And Josh Allen, I want to go bounce back to the NFL because Josh Allen, I've seen some great things as far as leadership. Before that Pittsburgh game, he was just like, we'll let them do the talking. We'll just go out and execute and play. And he really did and played so well and got Diggs involved. And that trade's looking pretty solid for Minnesota and Buffalo. And I really love the way Sean McDermott coached Buffalo Bills teams play. He was a guy that had to gut some players that didn't want to be there. And his leadership and Josh Allen's play has just been awesome to see. And the Bills are a fun team to watch with so much talent on the defensive side of the ball. And now they got weapons on offense, and Zach Moss is pretty solid at running back, and Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis, even though he had some drops last night, ended up making a big play touchdown. So Bills are a team to watch in the playoffs, and Josh Allen with that rocket arm is I'm always in amazement of watching him play, how big, strong, and just able to just fling the ball downfield like he does. It's really incredible. So good win for the Buffalo Bills as they move to 10-3. Pittsburgh drops to 11-2, and more people are talking about, is Pittsburgh a fraud? I guess I want to see more. They don't really run the ball super well. Joe Hayden was out. They lost Devin Bush on defense too, and the defense, Bud Dupree, and defense hasn't really played like it's been, but we'll see moving forward. But, thanks for tuning in to the show, guys. Stay tuned for more episodes coming up later in the week. And thanks so much. Till next time. Peace.